Hey, welcome to New Spirituality. This is my first YouTube video, and I'm really stoked to be doing it, and really thankful for all the great comments and people that I've been meeting on Facebook and other social media platforms. It really has been inspiring me to continue on and create this video, and I'm going to be sharing a lot in this video. Hopefully I can do it in a short amount of time. I've got all sorts of, cool props that I'll be talking about here, and some other neat shapes that we'll be discussing. And I'll also be sharing my screen to, specifically get into some of the mathematics and the numeric sequence that I've been sharing. Most recently, the post that I shared, the last blog post I did, was on the I-Ching and the 8 Bagua directions, the 8 trigrams. And there was some mathematics associated with that. So I'm looking forward to sharing more on that. And just this morning, I really discovered, this is how it works with this material. There's just insights happening all the time. And I really hope that you'll stick it out through the remainder of this video to check it out and see what came up this morning, because the last little bit, even if if you could stick with this, that'd be great. But if you want to just skip the last few minutes as time goes on, if I'm losing you, check out the last bit, because it really kind of pulls some things together in ways that I didn't even expect. So that's just the way this language of light works, the sacred geometry. So, without further ado, I think I'll be bouncing back and forth between my screen share, and I really thought out kind of a bit about how this presentation will go, and I'll be going back and forth between showing you some objects and some of the screen share stuff. So let me put that up. And this will be, this is the image here that I shared recently. And it has the trigrams here around the outside, with the starting in the east all the way around to the northeast again. And as I said in that post, I've really been focusing on just a general passion of mine has always been around the 8 directions and the I-Ching and the Bagua. And I was really curious about how the star tetrahedron, which is an 8-sided form, I think you could see it in the upper corner here. I'll share this with a larger screen in just a minute. That has 8 points. So right at the center of that diagram is an 8-pointed star. And, we have 8 directions. So I was always curious how to turn the 8 directions into the star tetrahedron shape. And along the way, I got introduced to some of the vortex mathematic principles and the 369 and the magic of number 9 and all the numeric cool things that number works out mathematically. And I began to link all these 3 things together. I want to just, before we dive into this image, I want to just address a little bit more about the mathematics, just real simple and briefly. And I'll increase the size of the screen here. Let's get it up to about there. So, here's a schematic diagram. This is, if you look through an I-Ching book or something like that, they'll probably have a diagram in there where they break down all the directions, starting from the Tao at the top, the yin yang symbol, which I have number 9 here because I'm doing this all with these numbers here. So, for instance, if you look at the south direction, that's a red, 5 red numbers there, 5, 1, and 7. And don't worry about, getting caught up in these are meant to be charges, meaning red like a positive and blue like a negative, but it really doesn't matter very much what color we're associating to them, because they could switch the whole thing around. And there's a lot of debate about which numbers are yin and which are yang. And I didn't get lost in that. I just went with what the number sequence went. The one neat thing you'll see about the numbers here is that the way I have them done here is the red numbers here, which could easily be blue, are 1, 3, 7, and 5, which are all odd numbers. And the 2, 4, 8, and 6 are all the even numbers. So I began working with the number sequence, which each of these are a unique code at the bottom here that all fits together. All the last digits either have a 7 or a 2. The middle digits either have a 1 or 8, or the first digit either has a 5 and a 4. So if we're looking at that south direction, as I mentioned, picture that as just a red triangle. And if you add up those numbers, 5, 1, and 7, and you have to digitally compress these numbers, 5 plus 1 is 6. I'll have to use my fingers here, 6, 7, 13, 3, and 1. So now this is where the digital compression comes in. 3 plus 1, because we had 13, equals 4. And, you know, if there was a rule that I'm following here is that whenever I add up a triangle at the bottom, the sum of those numbers is always going to be the opposite of what the red was. So it's now a blue 4, okay? And you can do this with all these numbers here, 417, 3, 587, 2. Now, you know, I'm associating this all with the geometry, and that's going to be really important because in some of my posts, you've seen when I link all these numbers together and how they overlap, and I'll be showing you some more of that in this video, in the video and in this little presentation. You'll see that the numbers all add up to number 9. You know, when those nodes, this is a little node, a little silver ball, that's a little node. When they match up, that all adds up to number 9. And that's why number 9 is shown at the top of the screen here. So as we're going up the sequence here, if you're adding up 7, 4, and 3, and you digitally compress those numbers, then you're going to get the 7, 5, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, 7 and 3, you add up to 7 and 3, and that gives you 1. 7, 8, 9, 10, 1. And then when you get to the 6, you're getting 6 plus 2, you get 8, and then 8 plus 1 is the 9. So I hope I didn't lose you there, but you can work backwards. So 4 and 3 is 7, 7 and 3 is 1, and 1 and 8 is 9. And you can do the same thing on the other side when you're digitally compressing the numbers. So that's the key to this, is doing that type of digital compression throughout this. And of course, the trigrams are the south, southeast. And as I've represented them in this next slide and the one previous, they are opposite one another. So the south, which I have as a number 4, remember 517 adds up to 4, is going to be across from the north direction, which adds up to 5. So when you add the 5 and the 4 between these two polarities of south and north, the 5 and the 4 combine to add 9. So this is the other rule that I followed, is that I'm dealing with polarities here and arrange the trigrams in the old heaven way of looking at them in the I-Ching, is with the polarities across from one another. So 6 here in the northwest is across from the southeast 3. 8 is across from 1. West and east are across, 7 and 2. So everything, when those polarities are across from one another, and they're going to be meeting in these other images, they all add up to 9. So that's how these numerics are working. It's really simple. It sounds complicated. It took a little bit of a lot, you know, a couple of years of playing around with these numbers to see how they work, because there were so many different types of combinations. And this is the one that overlaid on the I-Ching trigrams in the 8-direction model, one way that I found here. So this is a different diagram that I haven't shown. And the other one that I showed at the beginning, this one here, that had the star tetrahedron. And you can see at the center of this, where the number 9 is, there's a shape inside, and that is an octahedron. That's made up by these little triangles, the colored ones, coming together to form an octahedron. And at the center of every star tetrahedron is an octahedron. So this image is looking at that octahedron shape a little bit more closely because it's the foundation of the star points, the points that are coming off that. So this is an octahedron. I'm going to come out of the screen share real quick. So this is an octahedron. We'll put the bluish side up and the red one down, or the red side up, blue down. And 8 sides. It's basically like 2 pyramids back to back on top of one another, with the black being in the middle. And we've got some lighting issue here, but I've numbered these. Oh, there we go. Oh. 6, and these are the corners, 8, 5, and 2, 7, 2, and 8. So these are when you're adding up these nodes, you're getting that 1. So these faces here are now in relationship to what I was just showing you with those numerics. So here's the polarities that I was talking about. Here's a 7, and that's going to be across from the number 2 on the other side, 7 and 2, just like the 3 right here is going to be across from the 6 on the other side of it. So that octahedron is very simply, all you're doing to build a star tetrahedron afterwards is you're taking these tetrahedron shapes, you know, triangle at the bottom, the red one, the 3 legs of it pointing up to the top. And then you're fitting that together, and I won't take it apart, but I'll just plug it right on top, and then that's how those are fitting on top of there. So, you know, I take these little nodes, those would be the same nodes at that point, and that one would be representing the 8th point because those little corners add up and give you the 8 at the top. So that's how the octahedron is at the center of the star tetrahedron. It's a core essential shape, and at the center of every one of these octahedrons is the cube octahedron, which I'll show you in just a little bit. So it was really important to get the mathematics of this figured out because I won't be able to do it in this video because I didn't set it up for this. But when we get into looking at each of the hexagrams, you know, in the I-Ching, it's actually now a geometrical shape. So if you're dealing with whatever the hexagram is, you know, Earth, and that's this point here, and it's got another point coming off of here, and that's the southeast one, then you'd have those points coming off here, and the whole thing is geometrical. So the I-Ching, in my view, is really a representation of these geometrical structures and the 8-sided shape that I'm dealing with here. And the star points are what the Bagua is representing, the 8 trigrams. So let me go back to the screen share here. Share the screen and see where we're at. Okay, so we are looking at, okay, so now we're going to get into something a little bit different. And, you know, I like to create like a template to work with so you could see a bunch of these octahedrons on here all of a sudden. And I'm going to construct a shape for you. And before I do that, I just definitely want to make sure I'm still recording here before I really dig into this. Oh yeah, I am. Okay, good. Let's share the screen again. Getting used to all the technology. Okay, let's share it. All right, cool. So I'm going to share, create this shape for you and see how this all fits together as a 3-dimensional object that I'm going to bring to life and show you like how those pieces fit together with a shape that I created over the winter that I called the loveahedron. And when you see this, it's a very cool shape. I'm going to be putting it together for you. Essentially, these are octahedrons, but they have this pentagonal structure on it that allows the faces to fit together. So you're going to watch what that looks like and see the build of how it comes together. But I'm going to show you what that looks like. So when we take these, let's move this one out of the center here. Now remember, each of these are at the center a star tetrahedron. Those points come off there. It's a star tetrahedron. We're just dealing with the octahedron part. I'm going to add the star tetrahedrons in just a little bit so you can see those. So I'm going to link these together into a group of 3 like this. They just fit right up. And I'm going to take another group of 3 just like that. I'm going to do the reverse of that. The reverse, I guess, would be like this. Okay, so the cool thing that happens there, let me just group those together. Sorry for all these little details, but I want to be able to move those around without them coming apart. Okay, so those little objects are grouped now. Now, here's the thing about that shape that you're looking at, is when they're joined together, they're the opposite of one another. One is pointing up. This one has got the 5 pointing up towards the top and the 4 at the bottom. Now remember, that's a shape that's got some volume to it. It's a 3-dimensional shape. They're these octahedrons, okay? And how you're looking at those octahedrons right now is as if a little bit, the blue is facing towards you, and there's that little red top sticking up at the top. So, you know, if you have an opportunity, these blocks are fantastic. These little magnetic building blocks are so much fun, you know, to play with, and get these shapes in your mind because you can see them in your mind's eye and build them, and then start playing with the shapes, and then create stuff like this that, you know, never seen before. So, okay, here we are. We're back over here with this, these 2 shapes that are joined together. Now, at the center, I know there's a lot of numbers going on, but I'm just going to draw your attention to these key numbers in this. Is the 1 and the 7 and the 4, which is meeting at the middle of those joined edges. And that's like a concavity going down in, all right? That's going down in. So picture that, like those numbers, there's a shape that can fit in there. And what actually fits in there is the top of the tetrahedron. You know, this tetrahedron will just fit right down into that space, 174. Now the other side of that, and notice the numbers around the outside of these, 1, 7, 4, 5, 8, and 2. These aren't just like random numbers. These are like crucial numbers. When you add up 7, 1, and 4, you get the number 3 when digitally compressed, and 5, 8, and 2 is 6. 3 and 6 and 9 is like the heart of this whole thing. 3 and 6 only show up when you add up 7, 1, and 4, and 2, 5, and 8. Another little lead I'll give you after we go through this, if you want, check out solfeggio frequencies. Okay, these are some frequencies that are all have some great impact on our health and well-being and DNA, and there's 9 of them, and there are based off of variations of 5, 8, 5, 2, and 8, 2, 8, and 5, 1, 7, 4, 3, 9, and 6, 6, 9, and 3. I'm forgetting what all the orders of the placements of the numbers are, but you go 1 through 9, and it's always a combination of a 1, 7, a 4, a 5, 2, and an 8, and a 3, 6, and a 9. So you're bringing in the harmonic value of sound to this as well with these number combinations, because light and sound and all that, all the frequencies, is all the same stuff. So we got a 174 down here, and then on the backside of this one, we've got a 5, 8, and 2, right? Now that one, remember I said the other one was going, this tetrahedron here was going down into that location. The other one is now pointed up and coming up towards you. And you can see that the numbers are shaded out in here, 5, 2, and 8, because they're on the opposite side of that. So you've got this shape, which will fit together, one on top of the other, just like this. And they'll fit like that. And they'll have these little docking stations. I'll put one of these together here to show you what I mean. And this is the loveahedron shape. So check it out right here. If you can kind of see that there's like a space where something could fit in there, that's a tetrahedron that would fit in there. Same here, same right in the top, and same right in the top. We basically just created an octahedron shape, you know, a bigger one out of those 6 joined pieces. And all the numbers are lining up. I put them together. You got 7, 1, and 4, 5, 8, and 2 right here. It's just replicating itself now at a larger scale. We've joined together small little pieces, put them together, and then just the same numeric thing is staying. So 7, 1, 4, and 2, 5, and 8 are meeting down in the middle. I'll stop the share real quick just so you can see this with the loveahedron shape. So here's these 2 ends. When you join this end together, 3-sided, I'll put one up, one down like this, turn them like so, pop them together like this. And now I just made a little mini octahedron, an unusual looking one because of the pentagon faces here, or the kite faces, I mean, that we have here. They were built off of using a 5-pointed star to get that base shape. So there's an octahedron pointing up. If I tilt it this way, this is just like the classic view you would see. But these are the little spaces. They're different on here. They'd be deeper with the tetrahedron. But those are the little docking stations that I'm talking about. Okay, that those other things are gonna, those other pieces are gonna plug into it, you know, like this, just like that. They fit like right on top like that, and they'll be going all the way around this now. All right, so that's how that fits together, just like that. Now, if you turn them around the other way, and I'm going to show you what happens when you do that, they'll line up okay, but there's a reason why now both the indented sides, the concavities, are facing one another, because we're going to make something even bigger than this little mini octahedron in just a second, a few minutes maybe. We're going to build something that is a big octahedron. Okay, and I'm going to show you how that happens. Now remember, I could be assigning all those numeric values to all this too. Let's get back to the screen share. Okay, so now we've got that little shape right there. And now I'm going to take these and we're going to construct something that's going to be a little ring. Okay, you get what's happening here. I might skip to the next slide so you don't have to watch me do this, because I have one where this is already completed. You see, as I'm going around here, I am piecing this together and I have it joined already. And the last thing I'll say on this one is that, remember, at the center of this is an octahedron that fits in there. I might as well just finish this up. But I have them joined in the next slide, so I'll go there. And there you have it. These are your 3 main pieces. And I'm going to show you in just a sec how that fits together with these shapes. So, okay, these are the pieces joined together. And this is the really neat thing about visualizing this. And this whole pattern here is looking at it three-dimensionally, like a stacked object, and I'll show you in a second, but when you're looking down it as flat, it's what the flower of life design looks like. And in a few slides, we're coming to that. I'll show you that. But we have to, you know, a big transformation, I think, in our consciousness is coming to be able to take the two-dimensional images of that sacred forms and geometry that we see and be able to see it at a few different pieces at one time, rather than just one single, you know, star tetrahedron, but they're all joined. You can't really break this out of the whole pattern. It's connected with multiple layers of smaller and smaller and larger. We just isolate one small piece. But that's one of the ways we can communicate about what those small shapes are showing us about the big picture. So here are those shapes. And remember, this is the base one. And this one right here will now fit in with the red dotted triangle, which means it's below this one right here. The other star there is going to fit right in there. It's going to dock right down into the base of this like that. Right? So the cool thing is now in these next slides, we're going to get a lot of numbers overlapping, but they all are going to add up and make a lot of sense because the whole pattern is just synced together that way. So when I add that star tetrahedron and put it over into the octahedron shapes, the 7 and 7, it's the same number, and it should be because that's the triangle of 7, 1, and 4, and the 8, 2, and 5, well, that's this one right here. That's going to fit there. But if I did that, what you're going to do is you're going to get a shape that looks like this. These two are fitting together like this. One's on top, one's on the bottom, and you got that star tetrahedron. I realize this is not a star tetrahedron, but I'm using that loveahedron shape that that came through in the wintertime. And you know, you've got this, but now what's going on with all the stuff on the side here? Well, what's going on there is you have this little ring is going to fit right in and around that. Okay. And now you have octahedrons, which are the star tetrahedrons too. They're meeting around the middle of that, and that's going to give you a bigger shape in just a moment, and I'll show you that. And then you take this on top and you just nestle it right down on top, and there you have it. We just created a really awesome structure. We did this out of 1 in the center, 3 on top, and 3 on the bottom. So we're up to 7. And then we've got around the outside 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. I'm going to do the math again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 1 at the center. That's 13. And that shape you're looking at is like a three-dimensional bubble view, almost spherical in a way, you know, of the cube octahedron shape, which it is this one right here. The classic view that you see this one in is like this. All right, that's the cube octahedron. Now the center of each of those little silver balls is the nodal point, is the center where the sphere will come off. So as we put that together, how this looks when we use the non-spherical form or just straight lines, we'll stop the share one more time. And I want to show you how this fits together. Now I realize I've got some pieces added onto the sides here, which we're going to do in the next piece. But these 1, 2, 3 in the middle are essentially the 3 that I've just been showing you that have joined together to create that little docking station, as I call it. So we got that one here. And then let's just say we'll take the one of these stars. I do have some Velcro here, and we'll place that right in there like that, right? Because that's where that star tetrahedron in the regular view form, the normal form that you usually see, fits in there just like that. And now we take this ring. And the cool thing about this ring is that all these little slotted areas, they're going to match up perfectly with these little dome triangles here. Now in the regular with the regular equilateral triangles and the tetrahedrons that look like this, those would just be tetrahedrons that we'd be joining in there. But with this shape, it's a little different. But it gets the point across because I take that, I'll just angle this down for a sec. See, I got that docked up there. I'll line this little thingy up, and we'll just work that in and around. Wants to go the other way. Put that back together. Voila. Now check that out. That fits right in there, nestled right in there. Okay, we got that nestled in. Side view. Top. And now we'll add in the other piece, which is going to be opposite of the triangle that's pointed down here. 1, 2, 3 points. That one's actually going to be facing up like this. Bam. So there we go. So now I realize I do have these other star tetrahedron-y shapes around it, but if we didn't have those attached right now, we'd be looking at the cube octahedron. And all I've done here is just add in these other pieces to turn it into that massive version of the octahedron that I had mentioned before. So it's a much bigger octahedral shape. And you could literally just go on with this shape, which I've modified in the future and made it much more sophisticated. I haven't even been able to share about this. I did when I first started posting on Facebook, I talked about the loveahedron, but figured I wouldn't go there yet because, you know, we're just dealing with the other forms now. But this is becoming useful because it gives you a three-dimensional shape that I can manipulate, and we can keep adding and plugging in and docking things in here because another thing of 3 would fit on that, and it just goes on and on and on. All right, let's see where we're at with the screen share. All right, so we put that shape together, and this morning, I guess last night, you know, I started playing around with that a little bit, and I said, well, what if we do? And this is what I did with the big one here. You know, I talked about those 8 star tetrahedrons. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them that are going to come around here and meet up. Well, I essentially did that same thing here. Is I take those 6 star tetrahedrons on this shape here, and remember, they're going to dock in to that little spot that is waiting for it, basically. So it comes over here in the bottom of that triangle, which is the dotted line, is going to come over and meet right up, right in there. So I'm going to do this one. It's going to come out rough because it's tough to see, but I got a next version that's a little bit cleaner for you. And we're going to take the other one, and we're going to do that, and then we're going to take the blue one down here, and that's going to dock in right to the bottom, just like so. All right, so now we've just docked in all the top ones. And remember, at the center of this thing now is a star tetrahedron just like in this big superstructure, we have that shape in the center, and then it's surrounded by 6 more. So we have 7 around 1. This is seed of life, 7 spherical shapes around 1. This is done where they're not overlapping, so it's a little more like an egg of life. But there's so many ways you can draw circles around this because all the forms are so interlocked. So if we take that one, I'm going to add it up into here. I'm going to remove some stuff in a minute so you can see what this looks like, because all the numbers are going all over the place. I can see that. But this is kind of what I work with when I'm visualizing a shape, and I'll remove some of this shape so I can actually see what's going on in there. That one fits in there, and then this one comes down here. There's something really interesting here happening, is that the blue and the red are starting to separate, and this was the cool find that I'm excited to show you towards the end. So roughly, you know, I put that together fast. That's fitting together like that. And look, in the next one, I'm going to remove the main egg shape, the cube octahedron spherical shape, just leaving you with the lines, and that's what you get. You know, a highly organized structure of star tetrahedrons, 7 of them overlapping in this way. And there's some phenomenal shapes in there. Some of the shapes that are like the leading, you know, scientists like Nassim Haramein are like studying, and I'll show you those shapes and where they are in this. But you've got all the numbers, the way they work out is you've got groups of 5, 1, 1, 7, 4. They all go to those spots, 8, 5, and 2. And 3 and the 6 are stacking all in the middle on these, 3 and 6. So like I said before, I'd have to tease this apart. Some of my other posts, I try to show you how the mathematics work when you're joining nodes together, and how when that all adds up, you get 9. You know, it all adds up to 9 eventually when other things are joined in to give the complete picture at what each spot contains numerically. So let's check out the next slide. What did I do with this one? Did I have that just doubled? I do. Okay, let's go over to here. And now all these patterns, like I'm saying, they all exist within that root-based pattern of the interlocking circles. And it just so happens, you know, when I scale the flower of life, that all those nodal points at the center, one and the tips here, they match perfectly at those nodal sections all the way around, okay? And notice all the reds, a little bit of blue creeping up in here. There's a lot of yin-yang stuff going on here, because you'll have some red creeping in down here. So you always have a little bit of that blue mixed into the red, and a little bit of red into the blue, and the predominance of red and the blue over here. And the way the color sequence worked out here, you know, I had south here and north here when I joined these together. This is the cool find that I'm super psyched about, and I hope you're with me now so you know what it's all leading, what it leads to, and that you didn't just skip ahead. But so we've got the flower of life pattern right here in the center. It's 19 circles that go around here, which are now spheres, right? We're looking at this 3-dimensionally because I just was able to show you how this looks spherically. You know, this is basically a 3-dimensional representation of the flower of life. And you're looking at it like, you know, something like that. Okay, that's what the flower of life looks like 3-dimensionally, as you could pick up and move around. Now the fruit of life, you know, is another rosette of circles out, and that starts at this point, but you could just as easily get the fruit of life in here by these little shapes here and start it there. Like I said, it doesn't really matter where you draw those circles. They can just, you know, they get smaller and smaller or larger and larger. It's just where we want to draw those boundaries. But you can see this pattern fits beautifully into this flower of life. Next one, we've got some of those base shapes that I said in there. I've turned the object that we're looking at just black, all of it, even the red and the blue side. because there's some cool shapes in here that Buckminster Fuller really fascinated about this vector equilibrium shape. This is only the front view. I didn't include the back. You can see there's a cube in there and everything. But this one, look, it fits, it's right in there, right in the joining of those shapes. So you've got the vector equilibrium right at this, and you've got one, a larger one that goes around here, and you've got a smaller one in here too, if you start to connect all the dots. And now this is just a very simplified view of the isotropic vector matrix, which is also known as the 64 tetrahedron grid. That one fits right in there. You see the upper triangle matches that black triangle up at the top. And it's got the star tetrahedron with the little points coming out of the cube octahedron. And it's contained within this matrix that surrounds it. And, you know, we just isolated that little piece of like infinite space, which, you know, this is just repeating over and over again at all these different scales. It's hard for the minds to really grasp that, but hopefully it penetrates past the place in the mind, because when you're looking at shapes like this, there's something that it's communicating at a deep level of wholeness in our being, you know, to the whole picture, you know, that this is us, we're in these fields, we're all connected through this, nothing is separate at all, from galaxy to atom. It's all a unified field, and science is saying this, and now they're actually using these shapes, which are ancient shapes. I mean, we're going back, the flower of life inscribed in Egyptian walls, a highly advanced civilization. And we're discovering that the root secrets of universe and wholeness and interconnectivity is in those shapes, and we're really bringing them out fully with the richness that we've gained through our advances in technology, and be able to visualize and draw these shapes and move them around like I am now, rather than maybe drawing them in sand or whatever we had to do. So anyway, it's just fascinating how these shapes fit. And now I'm getting into the little mini epiphany that I had this morning, because it comes down to, when I'm looking at this shape here and I see the red and the blue, and this is something probably about 2 years ago, I have a little sacred geometry folder, and whenever I see a cool image that I've been visualizing in my mind, one day I was visualizing this, I didn't even know a double torus existed. You know, we usually see the torus flow represented, you know, let me get a shape here. What's a good one? Oh, the star tetrahedron, right? So, you know, we normally view the coming around the bottom and up to the center like this, right? And for some reason, when I was working on these questions, I was like, there must be another torus field at the bottom. Like there must be some energy that meets at the middle. And, you know, this is before I knew any of Nassim's work. And I was like getting into his work, and I checked it out. And sure enough, he's found, you know, he's discovered a lot of these things and brought them into mainstream science. He's got some great visuals of the double torus field, and 2 YouTube videos that I highly recommend checking out after this, because these mathematics that I put to the I-Ching and Bagua, the Trigrams, I didn't know that when I was going to put all these together. I mean, I don't know, maybe some part of me knew, you know, because this is just kind of doing it, it's on itself in a way, that all these red numbers that are showing up here, which I labeled as the positive numbers, show up on the upper half of this double torus field here that meets in the middle. And you've got a blue one here that comes down here. And here's the 2 links. I'm going to put them in the YouTube video at the bottom, because they describe this double torus field much like our Earth, you know, how the convection currents come down towards the equator and then, you know, circulate back up like a flow like that. How the galaxies look like this, and even how our own energy system in our bodies work. And So I just kind of had that revelation this morning and just took this image that I had in this folder from a while ago and just put it right on the image. I didn't even have to resize it. I just popped it right in there and it fit right within the flower of life pattern, meeting up at all those nodal mark points with the plus side of things on the top and the blue side on the bottom in a double torus field. And when I was getting into these numbers, I was working with this double torus polarity. You know, this was part of it. So to see it work out like this, I'm really excited about. And in that, you know, in my new spirituality site, I'm talking about the heart. I'm talking about universal love, because all of this stuff for me doesn't mean anything without that. This is all what this is pointing to for me. And I think when we dig into this, anybody who digs into this for a little while to the depths will find that that universal energy is love. And that's why I'll keep plugging that. But in the YouTube video, Nassim, in a short little clip, they're only 5 minutes and 2 minutes long, he mentions that in the double torus field, you know, we picture at the crown of our head here, you know, the energy, the positive side, and right at our root. So we have our 7 chakras right along that axis, and right at the heart center is where those two meet in this double torus field energy. So going back to, and he talks about this little cavity, which other great sacred geometers mention, at the center of the heart. It's a little chamber in there that radiates out, you know, electromagnetic frequency, you know, up to 8 feet. You know, it's like the battery of life within everything. So listen to that video of his. And earlier, when I first started posting all this material I've been working on, not at New Spirituality site, but just on Facebook around March, you know, I was talking about this loveahedron shape and was really excited about sharing that. I'm so happy I get to bring that in. In fact, the New Spirituality site has an alternative domain name called loveahedron.com. So you could get to New Spirituality through loveahedron.com. But that's an aside. The that little heart space that I'm talking about in here is, you know, posting on the loveahedron, I focused on a lot of these images of Buddha, you know, or any enlightened being that has activated this flow of energy within them and connected to that universal love and compassion and consciousness has got this movement. And I took that image of the Buddha one I was using back then and put the double torus field right on there, and it's meeting right, you know, this right in about the little spot, a little below the actual heart, but symbolically you can see where it is. It's dead center, you know, in the chest. And there's the 2 flows of the energy from the root up, and some of that energy as it cycles around is coming up and around, and some is going back down. And Nassim shows this video, and this is how I visualize it too, is that's why I put these 2 yin yang symbols at the top and the bottom. These would now be flat on top rather than like that, which, you know, here they are actually the size of the moon shape I put there. So that's the earth circle that the double torus field is in. So you can put your earth in there. You've got the moon at the top, which has always been symbolically for a symbol of change. We had the beautiful full moon last night. So you've got this, from the visualization of the, like one electron, or maybe he mentioned, going around the double torus flow, it looks like the yin and the yang from above. So, you know, this all ties together back to the first slide of why the yin and the yang, why the I-Ching, why the Bagua, why our DNA spirals, like cut it in half, it looks like the flower of life. What it means for us physically, what it means for us in the larger scale of the universal scale of just being different size scales of the same same basic essence. So, you know, this is, I don't know how many minutes I've gone on here. This was kind of a little bit of a culmination piece for me in tying all the different threads together that I've been following for a number of years. You know, I've been really at it for a while, just getting to sharing all this now. And, you know, I'm still scratching the surface, but this was quite a lot here to go over. And I'd like to refine it some more and show you more how the numbers work in the future. But I think that's it. Let me move out of the stop and share. Stop share. And yes, you know, if you followed that out, thanks so much. It was so great to have 18 subscribers already. 18, that's perfect. Adds up to 9, you know, for this first video. If you like this video, if you think there's some cool information, share it, get it out there. You know, there's certainly some different ideas and opinions about the things I'm sharing, but the way I see it, we're all having like a really cool, creative conversation that you know, we're all taking part of to learn more about each other and ourselves. And you know, my vision for all this is that it expands our consciousness to that unity, to that wholeness, to that spiritual nature and dimension that exists, that is us. And you know, through our own interpersonal work, realizing that we're having a massive impact in small ways on the collective, and all these forms and all this geometry and all these numbers and this alive universe of structure, function, form, biology, it's all woven together. And I think that has the great capacity and ability to generate a lot of compassion, a lot of love, and a lot of understanding for our uniqueness and all the gifts that we have to share. So thank you so much for coming out here. Much love to everybody for attending. Peace.